Okay, welcome. We are live. Good to be here. Hopefully everything's working. I have had a lot of good evening, Frederick. Nice to see you here. I've had plenty of smart home issues this evening with, I think it is an unreliable surge protector in my server closet that is going out. And so I've had various internet issues and things, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully everything with this stream holds together and we're able to get going and talk about, we have a lot of exciting stuff to talk about tonight with little bits of news here and there, as well as I want to check out this new Phillips Hue AR feature, which is kind of interesting. So we can check that out. Nice to see some more people popping into the chat. Sam, Saul, some of the regulars here from beautiful Hilton Head, and Brian. Just installed an Eve outlet from Prime Days. That's great. Yeah. I've been really pleased with my Eve outlet. You know, they sent me one when the product came out. Thanks, James. Nice to see you here from Vegas. But yeah, back to what Brian was saying about the Eve outlet. You know, they sent me one, and when it came out, it's still working great. I'm very pleased with it overall. And yeah, it was a very easy thing to set up. It's a bummer that, you know, because they moved to Matter, some of the energy consumption automation stuff got lost, but I'll take that trade-off given it's Matter, and sort of the move forward to the standard, I think, is for the time being a definite net positive, despite the lost features compared to like a HomeKit specific Eve Energy smart plug. So yeah, speaking of Prime Day sales, I want to mention this one. There's they told me about this after it was too late to make it into my video for Prime Day, but Nanoleaf has a bunch of nice discounts, particularly on their Essentials line. So if you're looking to pick up some of their light bulbs or their light strips, those could be good times to get some deals on those. $30 instead of $50 for a light strip, and as well as then a 3-pack of their light bulbs, $30 instead of $50. You know, there's also some other, you know, the Nanoleaf 4D, if that's something you want to set up with your TV, that could be really nice. As well as, you know, you can save a few $30 on the outdoor string lights. So yeah, definitely some good deals from Nanoleaf to check out if you're in the market for stuff for Prime Day. It's not too late. I mean, Prime Day or whatever, Prime Big Deals Day, whatever they're calling it now. That finished yesterday, but I think a lot of stuff is still running. So this is through October 11th, so through probably the end of the day tomorrow. So I'm guessing North American time, given Nanoleaf's headquarters in Toronto. So the other thing is, speaking of deals that you're going to miss out on, probably, it's been contingent actually for a while, but you could buy Michael Jordan's home right here in the sunny Chicago suburbs. This is in Highland Park, Illinois. Obviously, he doesn't live there anymore, but it's for sale for a cool $14.8 million. Yeah, anyways, and just a neat looking home, but that's that. And when you're done watching this live stream or another time, I just want to point you to fellow friend YouTuber Stephen Robles, who I think is doing okay with the hurricane, made it up to Georgia to get away for a little bit. But he has a video on his smart shades, obviously made before the hurricane. Yeah, these are a brand of smart shades that I had not heard of. And there's a really good review of them. The Canisteo HomeKit shades, they work with Matter and they're sold through Amazon. So just something worth checking out if you're into, into smart shades and thinking about different brands. I haven't tried these, but it looks like based on Steven's reports that they work well. And, you know, if you if it's a benefit to buy from Amazon, like if you're maybe trying to get extra points on your credit card or whatever else, could be nice that these shades are sold through Amazon. I think SmartWings are too, but anyways, this looks like another good option just to consider for smart shades. I probably won't be reviewing them myself, but you can check out Steven's video if that's something you're into. So let's go ahead and get to the Phillips Hue augmented reality features. But first, say hi to you guys, and I'm going to say hi to some of you guys in the chat. John, let's go. Nice to see you here. Oh, Sam wants me to turn on Super Chat. Soon we'll do something like that, Sam. I'm not, I don't know. I don't love the concept of Super Chat. For me, just for my channel, I'd rather do other stuff. So we'll see. But what's up, Eric? Water bottle 365. I'm I guess part of that club too. Any Ecobee issues? Mine's been disconnected the past few days. No, my doorbell's been pretty reliable. It's been a little sluggish, I would say. If anything, the past few days I have noticed sometimes where if I'm at home and I know when the activity is physically happening at the door, it seems that the delay between that and getting the notification has taken longer than it used to. But there's so many things in the chain of that they could be going on there. So I don't want to prescribe that as an Ecobee problem. Whoops. Didn't mean to click that. So with the Ecobee doorbell, it's been working fine, but my plan is to replace it. I'm going to go back to the Logitech Circle View, actually. I have my Logitech Circle View that I used to have in my front door in my bag here, and I'm going to put it on my front door sometime soon. I've been busy testing the Eufy cameras for a review of those. So that's coming on the channel. And so I haven't had time to put that doorbell on. But yeah, you're right. Back to the Matter stuff. You can get some of the energy consumption stuff through Home Assistant. So just not. Oh, it's interesting, but it is for the device as a whole. So like the power consumption of an individual outlet isn't necessarily reported through Home Assistant. Interesting. That's back to the Eve outlet conversation we just had a minute ago. Good evening, William. Nice to see you here. All right. I ordered Nanoleaf outdoor lights, shipping 1 to 2 weeks. Wow, that's they must be popular. Or maybe I've been pleased with mine. They've been still holding up well. The second version I installed. Now, of course, we had since then in Illinois, we haven't really had any severe thunderstorms, thankfully, and I guess in a way. But speaking of that, I hope everybody is holding up okay with the hurricane. I mean, if you're watching this, you probably have power. But yeah, the Nanoleaf lights have been still working well for me. I love the different colors and scenes that they add to it, and it could be a nice time to pick them up. What did I get for my smart home for Prime Day? And that'd be interesting too to hear other people's deals that they've shared or in the chat. I actually, I've had enough smart home things coming in to review for the channel that I didn't get anything myself for Prime Day, although there were some things that were tempting and certainly deals that of things I already have that I thought were good. I mentioned those in the video. But yeah, if you have some deals you're excited about, maybe something you can still take advantage of, get that down. Check it out in the chat. What other people are sharing about with their Prime Day deals. Oh, yes. This is a good question. And I mentioned this in a pinned comment on my review of the U300, speaking of things I've recently reviewed. So the U300, if you're not familiar, is a car's new lock that they announced at CES and just came out a couple weeks ago, last week. And they sent me the silver color because they know I like the silver color of their various products. I have currently have the silver U100 on my front door. Although, you know, I mean, there are plenty of locks that look good in sort of black or other colors. It's just for the finish of my home in different areas, like it just looks nice sometimes to have all silver and nickel or whatever, those similar finishes. But yeah, so a car is actually shipping the U300 in silver. They told me last week in about a month. So right now it's only available in black. So yeah, those are the only two colors I know about for the U300 specifically, but maybe there are others. But you know, they are definitely open to have me share that with you, that's coming in, I don't know, about a month's time or so. So keep an eye out for that when it comes. Yeah, MJ's home has been listed for years and dropped millions. Also had some flooding on the cord and such. Been broken into by urban explorers, of course, on YouTube videos. That's interesting, James. Thanks for the background there. Yeah, I just seen, was it Zillow Gone Wild or something? Someone posted like about a month ago that it's like, it's finally contingent, and it's just still been contingent. And it was one of those things that's like on my list of stuff to bring up in the live stream for weeks now, and I just never got to it or remembered. So I'm like, this time I'm going to mention it because I don't know, it's kind of cool. But that's funny. Makes sense. Yeah, thank you, buddy. Don't forget to like the video. Support your, favorite content creators out there, fellow smart home fans. Siri is useless on the Ecobee thermostat. Oh, I said I said the words, and then my phone, which is currently mirrored to my computer, like started to wake up like, oh. Yes, the Ecobee thermostat voice assistant thing, I think it's a nice idea. I like where Apple's going with this in terms of letting other devices. Nice. Oh, I don't know if you heard that, but my HomePod said that's not nice. I like where Apple is going with putting their voice assistant in other products, but they've only done that with the Ecobee thermostat, and I agree. It's kind of lagging behind their software advances of their voice assistant in other products, and the interface, like just doesn't look all that good on that screen. It's not a great screen to begin with, and just doesn't really have the animations that you'd expect from the look and feel of Apple's voice assistant in other places. For example, I have the 18.1 betas on my iPhone, and in CarPlay, you automatically get the new UI for it. So it's this kind of multicolored rainbow aura glow around the edge of the screen in CarPlay, which I think is really cool. And it just goes to show like how Apple, how Apple can do that there. And it's obviously Apple didn't make the car. And they didn't make the head unit even, obviously, but like they're able to show their UI there in a way that they're not really able to with this Ecobee integration. So maybe there's some more things there Apple could explore in terms of getting that Ecobee integration to be a little better. I'd love to see them do it with more products, probably. Although, I don't know, like at the same time, Apple's all about integration of hardware and software, and maybe their voice assistant is better on something like their own hardware where they can control the mics and the speakers and all the details of how it picks up your voice. And theoretically, that would make it better, right? But I don't know. Hasn't happened yet. You guys are having a lot of good comments tonight. And speaking of like deals with Apple and the smart home, I want to bring up this one thing that I'll talk about this in my Eufy review, but you guys here on the live stream get a little preview of it. So let me pull this up here on the screen. Bear with me here for a second. So, okay, we have that up, and then this is the part where, okay, here we go. There we go. Okay. I always forget how I can show a specific application in Ecamm. There we go. So this is a screenshot from the setup screen when you're setting up HomeKit integration, or like Apple Home, with the Eufy app. And it says, according to the Apple guidelines, when HomeKit is enabled, the timestamp will not be displayed in the live stream and recording, which is interesting because there are other companies like Akara that do show, and TP-Link, that do show the timestamp. Maybe this is a new standard that Apple's trying to get all their vendors on. The status LED will light up red when live streaming or recording, and then the detection type switches to all motions. So I guess, it's like the best way to describe this, I guess, is like on the Eufy app, it's all motions, but in the Apple Home app, of course, you can customize your alerts, but that's what's doing the detection there, of course, not the Eufy app or the Eufy hub. And then the working mode is switched to optimal surveillance, which basically means that, there are different modes on the Eufy cameras that you can use to save battery in different ways. So, with that, you need to be set in the optimal surveillance mode, which is, I think, one of the less energy efficient modes, if memory serves. So, yeah, just an interesting deal, because we were talking last week, I think it was, it's like 2 or 3 live streams ago now, the new Eufy smart lock had come out. And that's a cool lock, but I was mentioning that it's just a bummer that there weren't at the time any cameras that integrated directly with Apple Home anymore from Eufy, any newer cameras. And of course, then they came out with the 3S. And I think probably this little outline here that Eufy has in their app is kind of a peek into the kind of stuff that probably the two companies were hashing out in terms of, all right, let's make this deal happen. But of course, Eufy has to concede these various things to Apple for the experience to remain consistent for Apple users across the different products. So, anyways, not a big deal, I don't think, in using it, but I just thought, given that we were talking about in the past, like, why hasn't Apple done a deal with Eufy? Like, did the people who worked on the initial integration just leave either company, the people at Eufy or the people at Apple or something? And, but potentially there was something here where Apple, because if memory serves, I had the Eufy Cam 2s, which had HomeKit secure video. I think you were still able to show the timestamp and the Eufy logo there inside of the stream that went to Apple Home. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's what it was the case. So, obviously Apple didn't like that. Anyways, this is, I'm glad they worked something out, because I'm glad it works now, but just something to call out here. So, go back to this. Now, I'm going to get to finally the Hue AR stuff, which I think is kind of interesting. We'll see if other companies actually do this too. So I'm going to go ahead and share my phone. Let's see. QuickTime. Here we go. So move this over to the center. So this is my iPhone here. And I'm going to go in the Explore tab in the Hue app and then choose Try Lights with AR. So we can try this with, let's do this one, because I haven't done this one yet. And hanging stuff on the wall in AR can be kind of tricky. Tap to place the light. All right, so there it is. I can see it. You get a little bit of artifacting there as it's trying to blend the light with the other light that I have there. I'm kind of giving it, I guess, a hard situation here. And then I can change to different light levels. And it's showing me like how much light it would or wouldn't add, and then dimming the rest of the lights in the room. Obviously, as you can see on the camera here in the little corner view, the lights are on, but then it's sort of dimming that view with the view through the camera. And then I can change which light. Now, this one just has that particular light finish. And then I can also go through here and choose a different lighting mode, so I can get a sense of, with all the Hue lighting modes, what are the ones that, I might like to use. Let's see, we can pick a different color, see how I really want to put my lights purple, maybe. So I can do that. And that's the bottom one. Here's the top one now. It takes a minute to update. There we go. Look at that. I can make the top one green now. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You can see that. I mean, you're still getting some of this artifacting. I'm totally like, that does, yes, it's not exactly what it would look like, but that's fine by me. I feel like this is still a really cool experience from Phillips Hue. And then I can go back here and let's try another product. So we can try, let's try the table lamp. I tried this one earlier. So I can put the table lamp here, tap to place it. There we go. And then change the different lighting here. Let's do night lighting again. And then I can go here and choose different color effects or whatever. And here's, oh yeah, we can play the fireplace one. Here's a rainbow or prism. Candlelight, what does that look like? Huh. So yeah, and I can get a sense of like how big it would be in that particular part of my table there. Actually, and these are, I think I mentioned this on a previous live stream, but these little Philips Hue lights, fellow YouTuber George Langabeer has these as bedside table lamps. And they're really cool for that because you can actually just pick them up from the bedside table, take them with you, let's say at night where you might want dim lighting to walk somewhere in the house, and then put them back on your bedside table and go to sleep. And it's right there as your bedside lamp whenever you want it. So pretty cool product. I have not used these myself, but I thought that was a cool use case from someone who has. So yeah, anyways, they don't have all their lights in here, but there's definitely some, and I think it's really cool. And I was a little worried when I first heard about this that like, oh no, Philips Hue is going to be turning their app into something where you're going to just be sold stuff, right? So you're going to open up the Philips Hue app to adjust some scene or setting, and then you're going to get all kinds of messages about, oh, buy this. This is on sale, just being sold to all the time, which, yeah, if you're opening an e-commerce app with the purpose, if you're opening Amazon to buy something on Amazon, that's not surprising. But like the Philips Hue app, it's kind of an interesting context. So I don't feel like I'm being like really sold to and pushed like, oh, buy this lamp now when you're doing that, which I think is a good balance on their part, given what Philips Hue is and what they do and what their app is used for. So I don't know if anybody else has played with that, but I think it's a pretty cool idea from a lighting company to be able to show you what the lights are going to look like in your room, not just like how they'll fit in your space, but how they could change the lighting. And that must have been a decent amount of work on the app side to get all that to line up. So kudos to that team. I'm going to get some of your questions in the chat. Anyone have a solution for accessing energy consumption data and subsequently using it for automations without Home Assistant? So we talked about at the top of the show, the Eve Energy products. They do have energy consumption data for automations if you still have some of the old HomeKit ones. Unfortunately, that energy usage is no longer a trigger in HomeKit for ones that have been converted over to Matter. There are... yeah, and like, because all of Apple's new energy consumption stuff, I've not used it because I don't live in California. But it sounds like from the people who have it in like it's all about the reporting of energy usage, not like, oh, my plug dropped to low energy. That means that I just shut this off, which means I also want to turn off the lights or whatever else. So yeah, I'd love to hear in the chat if anybody has answers to that question. Oh, trying to return my Logitech Circle. Yes. I do not. I was mentioning that I'm going to install the Circle View doorbell. We'll see. But I do not recommend at this point buying the Logitech Circle View cameras. I mean, I've just heard of so many reports of them having connection issues. Some people haven't, and they're just, they got lucky and they have a good unit or something and they work well. But I do not recommend at this point buying Logitech Circle View cameras. I would go with the Eve Cam if you're thinking about something along those lines, sort of like a high-end privacy first Apple HomeKit secure video indoor camera. I would go with the Eve Cam, not the Logitech Circle View at this point. Oh, another deal. Also picked up the car door window sensors. Yes, that. An AirTag fabric roll. That's cool. But yeah, it can be a nice time to stock up on sensors or other sort of staple items that you might want in your smart home, like more lights or sensors for areas. So, yeah, nice part of Prime Day. Use the S3 Pro 3-pack. Yeah, so it's a good question. We talked a little bit about the Eufy S3 Pro setup process. I don't know exactly when I'll finish this video. I'm hoping I don't want to commit to anything, but I'm working hard on that video. So I'd like to get it out as soon as I can, but I don't want to rush it too much. Cameras have a lot of layers to talk about and consider. So we'll see when I get that video out. But so far, I've been pretty impressed with it, but I wouldn't take that as like, this is not financial advice, I guess, is a way to put it. But yeah. And then they do have the additional solar panel in. I got the 2-pack, and I bought it myself. Eufy did not send it to me. I got the 2-pack with the solar, and it comes with the solar panel. But each camera itself also has a solar panel built in, but it's not as strong or as big of a solar panel, and also it's right on the camera. So the advantage of the external solar panel is that it's bigger, so it absorbs more sunlight, and it also can be placed somewhere where the camera is not. So you have a little bit of a cable to run, so if you need it on like the other corner of your house or something to get the sun opposite to where the camera is pointing, that's the kind of thing where the solar panel is really helpful. Yeah. All right. Modern Day Tech Eric in the house. Nice to see you here. We need a lot more products with Apple's voice assistant built in. A switch. That's an interesting idea. I just Apple has enough challenges to engineering a good experience with their voice assistant right now, especially as they move to Apple Intelligence. And so that's where I think that it's probably, I don't know. I get the desire from the consumer side of like, I just want to have Siri in all these places. Oh, there we go again. And getting a HomePod mini or a HomePod or something for every room isn't practical. And also I've tried that, and it's not always the best smart home setup to have like tons and tons of those things around your home. So with that, I get the desire, but I just think that let's have them master their voice assistant so it's so rock solid on their own devices, and then maybe start dreaming about stuff like that is my thought there. But it's it's certainly a valid argument, Eric, Modern Day Tech, to want to have that everywhere. I'm not saying you're wrong. My priority would be placed differently if I was running Apple's home department. So many good thoughts here. Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, the AR feature is cool, and I think it's nice to see Phillips Hue add that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, good question on the new Max Water Bottle 365. I would say if you have an M1 MacBook Pro and the battery won't charge anymore, that could be a good case for an upgrade, especially given the battery issue. Although probably that could be solved with Apple Care support, even if you have to pay for it. I've had in the past, I had one or two different laptops over the years that have gone, personal laptops of my own. I mean, in school, I used to work at an Apple help desk for a school. And then, of course, we sent lots of things to Apple Care. But personal things with going to Apple Care and like you mail off the laptop or something, and they do a really good job repairing. So I think depending on, costs, like you're probably still going to get some pretty good performance out of an M1 computer. My issued computer for my job is still an M1 Pro, and that seems to be plenty sufficient for what I need there. So you might look into just getting the battery replaced. But that said, I think that the M4, I've had it on this iPad, and it definitely, I played around with it in Final Cut or some other things that, like Lightroom, that would kind of push it more. And it seems like it's a really snappy CPU, and based on all the Geekbench numbers, like the M4 is just screaming. And I'm really interested to see the multi-core scores. And that's something that I think a lot of people might not think about, especially if you're doing anything creative or software related stuff that really takes advantage of the multiple cores. Is you might anecdotally, just even though the numbers might not add up, like a person might have a better experience using an M1 Pro or M1 Max, especially with a bunch of RAM and stuff, for doing things like software development and video editing than they would with an M4 non-Pro or non-Max or non-Ultra. Like once you start adding those extra cores, when you get into multi-core workloads, graphics for games, I guess if you're doing that on your Mac, those kind of things also, like even various local AI things, or maybe training a model if you're doing that on a Mac or anything. Like all of those things are very parallel tasks, compiling apps in Xcode, rendering videos in Final Cut or Premiere or Resolve or whatever you use there. That stuff is going to be dramatically faster when you move to the multiple core stuff. And the other thing a lot of people forget about is that when you move up to the multiple core processors for Apple, is you get multiples increase in the memory bandwidth, because you're basically getting, more than one, CPU in there that talks to memory. And so then each of that sort of doubles or whatever the memory bandwidth, and then up from there. And it's not always exactly a one-to-one relationship like that, but that's kind of the idea that happens. And I'm really interested to see what Apple does with the M4 Pro and M4 Max, and maybe the M4 Ultra if we see that. We didn't see an M3 Ultra. It sounds like because the process at TSMC to make those 3nm chips was just too tricky and like too much like their first run at doing a 3nm process, and the M4 is better at all of that stuff. So hopefully maybe next year we'll see an M4 Ultra. I'm very happy right now with my M2 Max MacBook Pro that I use for all my video editing and YouTube and stuff, and that's been great for me. So I personally I'm not like super interested in upgrading. I have a M2 Max. Well, here let me tell you what I have right now. So I'm running, if you're curious, I'm running the M2 Max with 32 gigs of RAM, and then I got like the binned M2 Max. So I have, how many cores do I have? Anyways, I should be able to tell you, but by memory, but I don't remember. They really bury it. It just says Apple M2 Max, but I have whatever, not the top of the line config of the M2 Max, but like the one below that with 32 gigs of RAM, and it's been great. Terabyte hard drive, or SSD hard drive. Yeah. So yeah, anyways, it's, I'm excited to see what Apple does though, because I think it's really a sign of like where their chips are going. And I think this could be a big leap forward in performance for the Pro and Max level chips, especially given the fact that the M4 is such a jump from the M3 and especially from the M2. So Yeah, but also like, yeah, if you're having battery issues, maybe look into getting an Apple Care replacement, just depending on, sometimes the cost of that could be like $750. And then like, why do that if you're practically in the price range of a new machine, potentially at that point, depending on how you slice it. So lots of things to consider, but I'm excited for the event. I don't think we're going to see anything smart home related there. Maybe some new Mac peripherals that would be nice, like new keyboards, mice, stuff like that. So let's see. On the FP1E, interesting. It recognizes fine, but never seems to realize the room is empty, even with the AI learning feature. Yeah, because you can do that AI learning feature there with the FP1E. I think it's actually the FP1E. I always want to say the F1PE, but it's not. It's the F1PE. You are correct, Stuart. So, yeah, it's... I have not had issues with it struggling with the room actually being empty, with the exception of the one that I have in my laundry room. I have gotten some false positives where the dryer or the washing machine are running and it doesn't recognize that there's no person in there. Or at least it doesn't right away. But I have not seen issues where it struggles other than that occasional issue. Most of the time it gets that right. So I would say it's one of the challenges with the F1. It's one of the features, but also annoyances of the FP1E, because I like it better than the FP2. But the FP2 does have like this whole detailed thing in the app where you can do like a map of everything. And I think you're talking about the learning curve of like the device itself learning, because the learning curve on the FP1E, just setting it up and getting it running, is pretty straightforward. It sounds like you've gotten all that figured out, Stuart. Yeah. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe think about like what else is in the room. Maybe I would say maybe try putting it in a different location. There could be, because it's millimeter wave, maybe there's some other sort of radio frequency device near it that's like somehow confusing it a little bit. So I would try mounting it in a different location, just to see how that works. Maybe a different side of the room or something. Then, like you could also try, you'd also look at like, this is not really fixing your problem, but like you could look at like doing automations where you just have it turn off after 30 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever. And you can have that. So like you tell Apple Home, I want to, if this room is occupied, turn on the lights for 15 minutes. And that should usually work then in turning it off. Depends on the circumstance and how long it's been since it detected occupation. And if it gets it again, then it'll be like on again for another, kind of reset the timer. So, those are my thoughts there. Look at the mounting location, because I think that would probably help you. Inside, Josh is having issues with his U300 not moving smoothly. It's going to be tricky with I think it's one of the trickier things with something like a latch lock. And I think it's part of, you see someone like Akara doing a latch lock like this, or a lever lock, whatever the proper term is, but where it's not a deadbolt. And think, well, why doesn't everybody do this? It's so obvious. Like, this is such a great product use case to not have to have a deadbolt for your smart lock. But I think that it's very hard from a physical hardware perspective to pull off well. And I think that it's like deceptively hard to get all those things lined up right and at the right tension, so like everything works. I haven't seen mine get stuck like this, but maybe talk to a car support. I don't know. You might also look at, I've had issues in the past with like a deadbolt where I just need the hole to be deeper for a particular model of deadbolt. And so you can just get a drill bit at the hardware store to like make your lock hole deeper. And in the door frame. So you might explore some things there about maybe how big the hole is around the strike plate on the actual door frame. You can make that a little bigger. You could try maybe using it without the strike plate screwed onto the door frame. But that's also all, I'm interpreting it as like the lever is stuck because something in the mechanism is wrong. The other troubleshooting thing to think about there would probably be the tightness of your lock, because that was the thing that I mentioned in the video. Is like I had made mine really tight so it gripped onto the door really well. And that tightened everything to the point where like the lock didn't function properly inside. And so maybe there's an issue there. The last thing would be there's the screw that then tightens or loosens the doorknob part, so you can make it flip, so you can have the doorknob be, going one way or the other, depending on what you need for your door. And maybe that is like too tight or too loose or something and causing some issues there. Someone in the comments of my video suggested Loctite as another way to like hold the lock steady, if you need that. But hopefully you get that figured out. It's a really cool product and it's amazing when it works, but it is like, it's a hard problem for a car to solve. So hopefully it works out. Garen says, I guess supporting my claim earlier that I'd love to see just the Apple's Assistant get better in the device it already runs in. But it would be cool to just have more options with their Assistant. I mean, Amazon's done that so much. Like I've put the Amazon Assistant in my Sonos speakers and I don't use it a ton, but it's kind of nice to have it there. And it's just like a flip of a switch and then I have it there. So there is something to be said there about the ease and convenience of like going down the slippery slope of getting more into a smart home system just because, well, it's already there. So why not? I was bored one day and turned it on. So okay, cool. Nice to hear. Waterball 365 can upgrade either way. Makes perfect sense. Oh yes, this is something I have continually left. So there are random topics that I have like in my list of stuff to talk about the live stream, and sometimes we don't get to them because you guys have so many good questions or comments, and so we'll leave the live stream and we'll never get to them. And this is one that I think has been definitely been on my mind for a while with this new fall event. And I mentioned no smart home stuff. I can't believe this didn't come to my mind earlier. Of course, yes. Mark Gurman has been reporting that the new M4 Mac Mini will be significantly smaller and like an Apple TV sized device. And I think this is a really cool idea for smart home, particularly like the folks who probably tune into this live stream, people who are really into smart home tech and might want to run some custom things like a home assistant or scripted or something else. To have a Mac that you can do a lot of that on in your home that's powerful is like having a Mac home server is a really nice sort of pro level smart home kind of a thing to have, not only for those random packages that you could run, but also I find it to be the most reliable way to do time machine backups. So if you have laptops floating around your house, you want to back them up to a time machine drive, you can do that with another Mac where you share that drive as a time machine drive. And that's exactly what I do with my Mac Mini that's sitting over there in the closet. And I have an M1 Mac Mini with 8 gigs of RAM. It's a very base machine, but I mean, it's still pretty powerful. Like I was, for random reasons, I was doing a bunch of the live streams this summer from that exact machine. But it does time machine backups for me, and it does a handful of other things. And just having a Mac that's always on, always connected to the internet in your home, there's all kinds of automation potential ideas there. There's a podcast from Relay Network called Automators and also Mac Power Users. And both of those shows have had various episodes in the past going through all kinds of details of what you could do with a Mac home server. So if that's something you're into, you might want to explore some of those episodes for ideas. But I just think making it smaller with a new more powerful M4 chip. It is like a product that's very interesting to me. I don't know if we'll see, like, who knows, maybe I'll get one for making a video here, but I just think, don't count that out as far as a thing to consider for your smart home as you're looking at like, well, this fall holiday season, what do I want to spend my money on? An M4 Mac Mini is definitely something to keep out there as like just something to consider, whether it's now or long into the future. But yeah, it'd be nice to see them move that from the M2s currently. And also the other flip side of that that's a benefit is if the size isn't really an issue for you, depending on where you're going to put it, usually when Apple comes out with a new version like that, their refurb store fills up with a lot of the old model. And in this case, the old model might be plenty powerful enough for what you're trying to do. So also something to keep an eye out for is the Apple refurbished store, which you can get to in their app and everything else now and see some of those refurbished machines that they sell. You know, Apple refurbished is very good quality. They replace a bunch of the parts when they get it back. And it's often, I think, like returns or similar kinds of circumstances. And they certify it with their warranties and everything as if it was a new computer. So you can still get AppleCare if you want to. You can still, get their 1 year warranty or whatever on it and everything. So they're good machines to get refurbed and could also be a deal to get if Apple announces a new one there. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And thank you, Waterball365, for chiming in on the millimeter wave sensors. Yeah. Placement is everything. So, yeah. So if you can play with placement, it is powered by USB-A. So you can get those USB-A to A extension cables if you need to run it maybe a little bit further. You might already have one of those or some other way to sort of run USB power a little further away, extension cord for the outlet side of it. All right, some good discussions in here. Brandon, nice to see you here. Thanks for joining the live stream. I'm catching up a little bit behind on all this chat here, but thanks for joining. I'm looking forward to seeing you this January at CES. Man, it's going to be 2025 before we know it. That'll be fun. Here's another Ed's Workshop M2 Pro, MacBook Pro Mini is my smart home server running Home Assistant and other stuff. Yeah, it's whether it's also a good point to make. Like, I don't know if this was what you were trying to say, Ed, but yes, a Mac Mini is a good fit for that kind of device, and you can use a Mac Mini, but you might also let's say you upgrade your laptop. Let's say you upgrade your laptop with this fall announcement, and then you have an older like M1 laptop or some other computer that's, slightly older Mac, maybe even an Intel Mac, although that's kind of an awkward transition point to deal with in this case. But something like that where you could still put it connected to a power adapter, keep it plugged in and always on in a closet, and provide it has some okay ventilation to keep it from getting too hot. It's a lot of Apple computers can be sort of reused like that in a second life as a home server. It doesn't have to be a Mac Mini. Oh yeah, the M4 Ultra Mac Studio will be a really sweet machine. I think that is, it's like, for those of us nerds, just like it's like looking at a hot rod car that's just like really powerful engine. That M4 Ultra Mac Studio. It's going to be real power. This is a good question from Chris, and I'm conjecturing a little bit on this answer, but I think I know what's going on. So if you're familiar with this, and I made a video on this ages ago, and I get comments randomly on that video of just like, oh, this is amazing. I never knew this was possible. And a lot of you guys watching the stream probably know about this already. But diving into some of the details, there's a way you can convert an automation in the Apple Home app to a shortcut. And I think it was basically Apple's response to some of the critics, probably myself included at some point, but like that the HomeKit APIs have all these different ways to deal with triggers in your Apple Home where you can add different conditions to them. And you can say, I want, when this door opens, I want the lights to turn on, but only if this other smart plug is off, or, whatever condition you want to assign to it. And there are a few different ways you can do conditional automations, a lot based on time within Apple's UI in the Home app. But I think Apple wanted to keep that UI simple enough that people getting started into home automation aren't overwhelmed by like, well, I don't know what I want to do here. This is confusing. I'm out. And so I think it was kind of cautious and careful, considered design on Apple's part. I love that they still have the features in the API, but then they added this ability a few years ago, I think now, to convert an automation to a shortcut, which then gives you a lot more automation potential options there, because there's maybe a few different things you couldn't do that you could do with conditional automations. I remember discovering that a while ago, but my memory's fuzzy on those details at this moment. But you convert an item to a shortcut, and then you can have a condition of like, check my status of my home for this accessory, if run this scene, otherwise, and you can have it do weather. You can also have it do some very basic terminal commands, like it could like SSH into some Mac Mini home server or whatever else on your home network and do stuff there in the shortcuts. But it's a limited set of actions compared to shortcuts. And that is because those shortcuts inside the Apple Home app are really just a nice facade around some HomeKit automations that are actually running on your Apple Home Hub. And I think Apple's using maybe some internal APIs to do some of the fancy stuff there with, some of the actions, but they're still limited by that because like when you're running a shortcut and you have and it is a little bit weird that then Apple doesn't include maybe more of their apps in that, but I think it's just because I get the impression that under the hood, those shortcuts that you make in the Home app are technically a very different thing than a shortcut running in the Apple Shortcuts app. Because in the Apple Shortcuts app, you have these intents that an app will sort of expose to the system. And then when you run that piece of the shortcut for that particular app, it doesn't wake up like the full app itself, usually, depending on how the developers are structured, but it'll like run this little bit of code that the developers sort of put into this shortcut as what's called an intent. And this API has changed a bunch over the years, but it's like it'll run that thing and then go on to the next step and like have output of data or take input and stuff like that. And that whole process is very much specific to running on your Apple device with those apps installed. And it's also why, like, if you have a shortcut that runs some action that's like not a native Apple action and you don't have that app installed, like let's say you create the shortcut on your iPhone, right? I use Todoist as my to-do list app. So like, let's say I have a Todoist action in my shortcut and then I go run on my iPad. Maybe I, for whatever reason, don't have Todoist installed on my iPad. Then that shortcut won't work or that action won't work in the shortcut because that app isn't there with all of its stuff. So, you can't really run those. It's not the same environment where those shortcuts are running when they're running on your Home Hub, because when you do a shortcut inside of Apple Home, it's actually, like something you don't need your phone around for it to run, right? Like someone can open the door and that triggers a shortcut to run on your Home Hub. And, you could be far away from your home and all of your Apple devices are gone, but that's still going to work. I mean, all of your your iPhone, your iPad, stuff you'd run like traditional shortcuts on. And, it also gets fuzzy there too, because then Apple has this whole local system to the iPhone of personal automations, which is like another way to trigger the app version of shortcuts. And of course, the app version of shortcuts can do all the smart home stuff too, because your phone can talk to your smart home. And so, of course, Apple's Home app has various intents for like, oh, I want to, run this thing in my smart home. And so that's maybe a little bit of like what's going on there. Again, I'm guessing it's some of the details there, but from what I've seen, I feel pretty confident that that's kind of what's happening. I'm thinking of upgrading my Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi 7. I don't have any thoughts on Wi-Fi 7 yet, but that's cool, William. I'd love to hear if that works out for you, what you end up going with. But yeah, it's not something I've really had the time to fully look into. I'm still running Wi-Fi 6 here, and that's been good enough for me. I think some of the cool stuff I've seen with Wi-Fi 7 is some of the enhanced backhaul. So like if you have a Wi-Fi mesh network, you could have sort of a better backhaul between the different, the different access points in the mesh system. All right, let's see. Man, we've been going like an hour almost, and a lot of good questions and discussion here. I want to get to some more stuff. My wife isn't getting the invite. Any advice on how to adding others to your home through HomeKit? No. One thing I would say for this is I've had issues in the past with various other users where if you don't have iCloud keychain turned on for one reason or another, or also if you do not have a passcode on your device, when you're initially setting up Apple Home, it likes both those things to be true. I think maybe there's some behind the scenes stuff in keychain related to the smart home communication that it needs to sort of make that work. I'm not sure. Maybe that was just a bug for a while in Apple Home, but that would be something I would look into is like, does your wife have a passcode on her phone or their phone? And like, are they using like do they have iCloud keychain turned on in their settings? Those would be two areas I'd look at. I think they're definitely, I've heard of this issue from other people too. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe a little more Googling or research, you could find some examples of other people and what they've tried there. You can also just try the classic, like undo the invite, like delete the invite or whatever, and then resend the invite. And maybe that would help. Yeah. Hopefully that works out because it can be kind of annoying to get. And you don't need the passcode on necessarily, by the way, with HomeKit, in my experience. Because I was playing with this with like trying to set up an iPad as like a home server a while back, or not a home server, but like a home control. Is like I set up a completely fresh iPad and like I couldn't get the home app to load at all for anything. And then I added a passcode to the iPad and it's like, oh, now it works. So, and you can get around that by turning off auto lock, of course. And, but I was able to run Apple Home after that by removing the passcode and then it would work. But yeah, different things to think about. Back to the shortcuts thing. Is there a workaround? Good question, Chris. I would say the one potential workaround would be if you have that Apple Home server that we talked about earlier, you could I think, now I've not tried this myself, but there is sort of a way with that. I think there's a terminal command or SSH action in if only I had my iPhone plugged in and we can create one of these on the fly here in the live stream, then we can actually see this. I'm not just talking out of my butt. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and create an automation. Let's put this on the screen so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Here we go. So let's just say a time of day occurs, like sunrise tomorrow, people off. I'm going to go ahead and convert this to a shortcut. So here we go. And then we do have, run script over SSH. So if you're familiar with SSH, it's a way that sort of like you can log into if you're not familiar with it, you can log into computers remotely using SSH, and there are probably 1,000,001 tutorials online of how to set this up. It's used a lot when you're like administering like a web server for various reasons, but it could also be used in your home network. Be careful though with that. If you've never done it, it can be kind of dangerous, and make sure you do some digging of like how to do this. But you could then potentially use this to SSH into a Mac server, and that Mac server could run a script which then further controls your smart home and other apps from the shortcut. Now, I have not tried this. This is all in theory. Maybe I'm pretty swamped right now with various videos, but maybe I'll get around to doing this sometime soon, because that would be kind of cool. But anyways, that would be something I would look into as a workaround, is that once you're then running scripts on the Mac, there's very little limit to what you could do there. So that would be one thing to consider as far as a workaround for that in your home, assuming you can just have a Mac always on in your home, which is assuming a lot. But there's some very weird, like, I don't know why you'd want to find details of App Store apps in here. It's kind of random what's included in the various shortcut options for this. And maybe some of this is an 18.1 bug, because I don't remember Mail being in here before. And like, why would Mail be in here? So some of this, I'm running 18.1 beta. Maybe there's some bugs there. But I mean, usually the SSH has been in there for a while, if memory serves. So you should be good there to give that a shot. Oh yeah, another interesting. The Tesla event's about to start. Oh, interesting, Brandon. Thank you. Yeah. So, let's see. So, because your phone can talk to your smart home, in theory, your smart home could talk to your phone too, right? Sort of. I think when you go into personal automations in the Shortcuts app, I don't think there are any triggers for your smart home. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, it's all basically all stuff from your phone. But like you could do like, I guess the biggest thing you could potentially, like, I don't know. I can't really think of like examples of where you could pull this off, at least in the Apple ecosystem. The one thing you could potentially work with here is push notifications, especially when you start to get into apps. Now, this is, again, something that I haven't really like done a bunch myself, but is Pushcut is an app that allows you to do a ton of stuff with notifications. And I think Pushcut has a way to send a notification to a phone, and then the phone does something based on the notification. I know it can do the other way around, I think, too. But Pushcut might be an interesting app to like play around with there. I have not spent a lot of time with that app. So, and a lot of it's around running, again, back to home servers, like running this always on iPad on your home or something else to be a Pushcut server. So, and maybe they have a Mac version now, but that would be maybe something to think about. It is interesting though with, I don't know if this is new in 18 or 18.1. Maybe some of you guys can chime in the chat here, but this is kind of along these lines, is sound recognition for personal automation. So I'm in the personal automation page of the Shortcuts app here. If we go down, there's when my phone recognizes a doorbell sound. Interesting. Then it will run a personal automation. And, either after confirmation or immediately. So this could be something interesting. But you do need to enable sound recognition in settings to do that. So, interesting. So I'd have to turn this on. Well, let's just see what happens. Cool. So, something to dig into maybe and see what happens there. But I get what you're saying. it's a good question. I like where the idea is coming from. I think it's also around like another side of this is that idea like, right? Like something happens to your smart home, your phone knows about it. Like your phone gets a notification from it, but like, can your phone do anything else from it? It's something where, would it be reliable? And is your phone in a state where it can do something about that that's actually useful to you? I don't know. So I'm struggling to think of like the killer use case for this automation, but maybe I'm just not, it's not clicking for me. Like where? Oh, sound recognition been in there for a while. Okay, cool. Thank you, Chris. I've just never played with sound recognition in personal automations, but clearly you're pro level shortcuts user. So thanks for the heads up there. Yeah, it still depends on your iPhone actually recognizing the sound. You're right. So it's not actually doing what you meant. It would just be sort of getting around it because something happens in your smart home, the doorbell rings, and then your phone does something. That was kind of where I was going with that. But yeah, it's still not really solving your problem. Oh, thank you, John. All right, so we've had some good discussion in the chat and a lot of different things going on today to talk about. Let's close it down. I think this has been a fun night. Thanks for tuning in. Reminder to go check out Steven's video if you haven't already about I'll put a link to this in the chat. Steven's video on the smart shades. Again, I forget this brand name. What is it? The Canisteo shades. So could be cool if you're looking at smart shades. They look like a cool option as well. So check that video out. And thanks again so much for watching. Oh, back to live mode. There we go. Thanks so much for watching. And I hope to see you in the next video. Good night.